Okay, let's continue where we left off. After watching these two examples, I hope you can tell the research about vulnerability takes on the interpretive research paradigm, and the research about choice is more of a positivism kind of research, because when the scholar is doing the experiment on how the kids will choose what type of marker they use and whether that will affect how well they perform. That's a standard experiment procedure. The scholar started with the assumption about the choice and then test whether this assumption is correct, collect data, and essentially confirm what is confirmed the initial belief. And the research about shame, about vulnerability, is more interpretivism, because scholars started with the phenomenon. She was originally interested in how people feel connected to other people. And after she has interviewed all those people, she realized there's a different pattern surfaced in her data. So she changed her focus, specifically focus on those people who are wholehearted, and then come up with a theory about shame, about vulnerability. So that's one side. The research about the choice is more deductive type of thinking. The research about vulnerability takes on more inductive type of thinking. I hope that was clear while you were watching the video. If not, please watch them again and take better notes. I hope that example can inspire you to do great research and also help you to understand the two types of thinking here. Next, we're going to talk about the purpose of qualitative research. Usually people use qualitative research because they believe in the interpretive or critical research paradigm. They want to develop a rich understanding of people's subjective experience. Rich understanding and subjective experiences are the two key words here, because again, interpretive research paradigm and the critical research paradigm emphasize on the unique experience of each individual. We don't want to give them a standard test. It's like when you're taking an exam with multiple choice, your options are limited. That's more of the positivism side of view. But if you are answering open-ended questions, you have the chance to explain yourself, to provide examples. That's more of an interpretive and a critical perspective. So again, the goal is to have a rich understanding of people's subjective experience with qualitative research method. People usually assume, when they're doing qualitative research, they assume reality is socially constructed. You have to go back to the context, to each individual, to understand the reality, because each person has a unique experience and they are less concerned about the generalizability of individuals' experience. They believe value is deep understanding of a specific situation rather than being able to apply it to other situations. So they want to describe what's happening and what has happened and what's going on in each individual's mind rather than predict what's going to happen in the future on a large scale of things. One example of this, like I mentioned in the last lecture, is if you want to understand why or why not a voter likes certain presidential candidate, if you use qualitative research method, if you take on the qualitative assumptions, you believe each individual has a chance should have a chance to tell their own story. So you want to listen to them and describe why they feel a certain way eventually in your report. And you don't want to predict how other people will react to the same candidate. When we talk about qualitative research, it's important that we defend the trustworthiness of the data. Because qualitative research is more focused on unique experience, have rich understanding, the result is very specific, very subjective, but eventually we're trying to publish our result or convince other people our result is legit. So you really need to have ways to check whether your data is trustworthy or not. Although you don't really care about internal and external validity when we are evaluating data, which is the result, we need to care more about reliability and the validity of the measure. We will talk more about that later. Just remember, when you're thinking about the process of the research and designing the research, internal and external validity will be more important. But when we're talking about data specifically, we are talking about the reliability and validity of the measurement. With qualitative research, we care whether we describe the situation accurately. So there are certain methods we can take on to check the quality. The first one is use multiple methods. If you did an interview with 100 voters to understand their feelings about the president or certain presidential candidate in the election season, you figured out that conservatives have certain beliefs about what the president should do and should say on the campaign trail. Okay, but is your result valid? You want to confirm or disconfirm it with another research method, let's say focus group. You put all the voters together, let them talk to each other and answer the questions together. If they still show the same pattern, the results show the same pattern, you can say, okay, my data is trustworthy because I can find consistent result across those methods. The other thing you can do is the audit trail. It's you're really focused on the protocol, the research design, the coding descriptions, and see if your research was designed with very sophisticated procedure. The way you collect the data is very rigorous. The next thing you can do is check with the member, because when you're doing qualitative research, you really care about the interaction between the scholar and the participants. Whoever participated in the research, they should have the final say on whether your conclusion is correct or not. If you don't care about their opinion, you shouldn't use qualitative research to begin with. So check with them, show them your results. A lot of scholars would do interviews and focus group and eventually email or mail their result to those participants before the scholar published the article or published the project, because the scholar want to make sure that the data is trustworthy. He or she didn't misinterpret other people's comment. The last thing you can do is check with your team. Usually the research team should have multiple scholars working together. If you believe your data is telling you a story, then show it to other people, or show it to your advisor, your teacher, or your coworker, or even your student, anyone who help out during the research process, anyone who understand the question you want to ask, understand the method you picked here. See if they agree with you. I don't know if you ever had this experience, but if you read a really good book, you want to talk to your best friend who also read the book. And if you are having a discussion about what the book is really about, very often that you find out that you don't agree on certain theme or certain what the certain symbol means in that book. That's usually interesting for literature, but when you're doing science, if you're reading the transcript or interview or focus group and you and your teammate won't agree on what the result means, that's really a bad sign. Because science, we want a clarification, we want consistency, we want to be able to say that our data is trustworthy. We are not just guessing what's going on here. An accurate description is really the goal. All right, that's the basic introduction of qualitative research. Next section, we're going to start to talk about the different type of qualitative research: interviews, focus group, field observation, and so on. I will see you soon. Let me know if you have questions.